Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Ask, Don't Tell, the best salespeople, business owners, entrepreneurs. They care about not only the people they're selling to or what they're doing, and they show it. And that's what makes them successful. And today's guest, Pat Miller, knows firsthand about the life of an entrepreneur. And we're going to get into that about starting, scaling, growing, scaling, even what happens when your business fails and then you got to pick it up again. So I'm super excited to have Pat on the show today. And Pat is also the author of Kicking Karma's Ass. If I'd said that, stories of strength, resilience, and perseverance. She's also a business coach for entrepreneurs who want to stop. And if I'm messing this up, let me know. This is what they just kind of stop, hustling and like give them like actually a real life and an opportunity to grow their businesses. So you actually teach small business owners how to reclaim their time, strategy, and just grow without burning out. And so, Pat, thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me, Oscar. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
So tell me a little bit right now about, where you come from. Like actually you own a company, you own a construction company. You're still doing that.
Yep.
And so you're now trying to give back to others your life experience. So like, why do people come to you now? Like, why do they read your books? Why do they listen to your podcast? What is it that you're teaching people now, that you like to share with the audience?
So, what I think attracts people to me the most is my relatability. I'm just an average Jersey girl, right? I was born and raised in New Jersey, started a construction company with my late husband with $100 bill. So I'm the American dream, right? I got tired of him always being out of business, out of work. He was a union carpenter. And I said, I can't. I have a business degree and I was raising my kids. And I said, this is not going to happen anymore. I took control of my future and I spent $100 out of his last pay layoff check, and I got flyers and business cards made. And I actually did it the old fashioned way. I promoted our company on our feet. We went to every empty retail store and office building, and we just kept handing out business cards and flyers, and we just kept selling ourselves, and we got a call. And
Okay.
that first call, we haven't looked back. So I think it's important that people realize that if I can do it, they can do it. Like I said, I'm just an average person that was able to take control of my future and start my own business. And we haven't looked back.
Okay,
So,
good. So,
yeah.
so we were talking a little bit before the show and how for you, it's, hey, like I was able to get through, as an entrepreneur, you go through many cycles and we'll get to that in a
Sure.
second, but
Yeah.
ultimately you're wanting to teach people how to navigate all that and be able to grow their business, scale their business. Um, and when in Kicking Karma's Ass, and in the book that you write and in the teachings what is kind of the solution that you're bringing? Is it like practical teaching? Is it like experience? Is it like certain strategies? Is it like time management? Like, what's the solution that you're kind of bringing to people that come to you and say, Pat, I get that you have all this experience, so I know what you're trying to help me with. What's kind of the solution that you're kind of providing for them? Coaching, teaching. Tell me a little bit about
Right. So I want to teach people that it's first of all, it's not going to be easy, right? Nothing falls in your lap without hard work. So I want people to understand that, it's real life. It's not going to be easy, but it's doable, right? So I teach people how I did it. Because, like you said, I had a business with my late husband. We started talking about that before the show, and it kind of life hit us head on. And my business was dormant for 2 years. So I spent my life savings and I was in debt. So I had to restart my business again. So I kind of understand the hard work that goes into it and how you have to angle yourself into your industry and how you are your own best salesperson. Nobody knows your product better than you. And I teach them how to go out there and find their, their best client that they're looking to get and how to turn being an underdog into being successful, and a lot of that is relatability. People want truth, honesty. Um, you have to have your client's best interest in mind. You have to be truthful, and you have to always be accountable for what you're doing, and you always have to answer the phone. So one of the biggest, compliments I get from my clients, and I deal with very large developers here in the state of New Jersey, that I'm always accessible. I make sure that I'm accessible, whether, I'm first, there was only me, right? Now I have crews of men working, but they always get me. So you always have to be accessible to your clients, because it's important. It's very important. So I do teach people how to angle themselves in their industry and how I did it. Everybody
Okay.
has their own way of doing things. I just give them kind of, where I came from and how I did it. And it works. There's no better person, I think, to look at with scaling their business than a woman in a man's world. So I am always the only woman in a room full of 40 men. And if that's not intimidating, I don't know what to tell you. But I'm blessed with being from New Jersey, right? I have a little bit of, edge to me, and I'm able to sit at the table and be confident. You have to be confident when you're going out there and trying to run and grow your own business. You have to be confident in what you do. You have to have knowledge. So I try to teach a little bit of everything. And you also have to balance yourself. We all know
Okay.
this.
All
Yep.
right. So you mentioned a couple things that, and I want to kind of tie that in a little
Sure.
bit to this. A lot of the audience this show are salespeople. Ask, don't tell, my following, closing intelligence, how to get yes in life and business. So you brought up a really interesting point, and I want to go that direction because I think it's super valuable. Like if you are just starting your business, if you already own a business, or if sell for someone else, you are your best salesperson,
Yep.
right? So when you're starting a business, because I've started several businesses, so when you're selling a business, you are your top salesperson.
Yep.
And so it's interesting because you can have a great idea, and if you don't know how to get to yes, if you don't know how to sell, if you don't know, so you could have had a great, engineering background or a great design background. But what's interesting is it's the ones that have the engineering, the design, or the business background that know how to sell that are able to move their products or their ideas forward. So my question to you is, how do you manage being, okay, you're your top salesperson, but as your company has grown,
Yeah.
you can't be the top salesperson forever. Like then you have to start training others. You have to have other salespeople or someone. How do you manage that? How do you help people scale themselves beyond them being their own salesperson? If that makes sense.
Well, I think it comes down to knowledge, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you don't know it, get it. If you don't know the answer, find the answer. And we're blessed nowadays. I mean, when I first started out in the early 90s, you didn't have all this information that we have nowadays. So not everybody knows everything. And I try to teach the guys. I do a lot of referral. At this point in my career, 31 years, this is my 32nd year. I'm blessed with being able to do mostly referral work. But if you're out there starting out, you need to know your product. You need to know your client. You got to know who you're trying to sell to. Find out who they work with. Find out who your competitor is, and you have to get informed and get out there and sell. I mean, I teach guys that work for me, they're always on, right? I call it always being on. You have to always be on. You have to always have a business card, even though business cards have fallen to the wayside with computers and, codes and stuff like that. They always have cards in their trucks. You got to hand out to people. You never know who you're dealing with. I'm telling you, it's incredible how you meet people. You might be doing a small job for somebody and their husband is the president of a Fortune 500 company. You just don't know who you're dealing with. So I teach everybody to always be on the lookout. Get informed, know your product, know your competition, know your ideal client, customer, and then network with them. Networking's huge for me. So I think I'm a huge believer in networking and aligning yourself with companies in your industry that aren't your
Right.
competition,
You just
right?
unpackaged a lot of really good stuff because
Yeah,
so salespeople, entrepreneurs, they think, well, if I have a great product, I'll scale, I'll be able to sell, I'll be able to, achieve. And like, so I have a great product, right? Or if I have a great idea, then someone will buy it. Or if I write a great book,
right.
someone will buy it. And the truth is in life, and this is the first teaching moment that I want from today. If you're listening, like my first teaching moment for today is that's theory. Like that does not happen in the
Right.
real world. In the real world, you have an idea, a product, a design, a book, and you have to be able to learn to sell or to get to yes. But look at all the things that you mentioned around that. It's not just when people, oh, yeah, well, I have to learn to sell. No, you mentioned rapport. You
Yeah,
mentioned networking. You mentioned connecting with people. You mentioned the only way the way you're going to find out that that husband's lady is the president of Fortune 500 company is because you were able to ask enough questions. You took an
right.
interest in people. You ask, don't tell to find out in a conversation where you weren't pitching, where you were actually asking and you uncovered, oh my gosh, this woman's husband is the president of Fortune
Exactly.
500 company. I would have not known that if I was
Yeah,
too busy in my own. So selling, there's the teaching moment, is a lot more than just kind of pitching your product. It is actually, in order to succeed in the world of growing a business and sales, it is being able to look at, you said referrals, you said answering the phone. Like there's so much more behind that, but it all goes back to one thing:
yeah,
connecting, and taking an interest in people, human skills, showing empathy for your clients, and that's going to help you sell your products a little bit better. So I really loved what you
absolutely.
said there. All
Yeah,
right, so
no,
yeah,
absolutely. Look, you're absolutely right. You can have a fantastic product, you can do great work, but the first step is selling yourself. You
right,
have to be relatable to people. People go on trust. And I'm blessed. I'm a people person. I relate to everybody. I talk to people, hey, yo, what's up, man? How you doing today? You have to be a real person and you have to talk to them and you have to find commonality. So when you have that thread of commonality, then you can tie that bow together. Because just like when I go to conferences, I find out who's going to be there. I go up to the guy I want to target. I want to talk to him. I know you're super. I work with him for 20 years. You know John? Yeah, I know John. I've been working with John forever. Relatability. She knows John. John's a good guy. She must be good to
right.
work with. John doesn't talk to just anybody, right? So you have to sell yourself. You have to make people feel comfortable. You have to sell trust. It's a whole bunch of ingredients tied into one. But in my opinion, I think successful entrepreneurs sell themselves first and their product second.
Awesome, awesome. So you
Yeah.
just you mentioned something that I actually I think you're the first one that I've had on this podcast that I'm heading a little bit this direction because you mentioned like, okay, you go to conference, you go to trade shows, you see
Mhm.
someone, you did your research, but what you're really talking about is okay, networking. But how do I do that? Because a lot of our listeners are going to be in that situation where they are forced to network, and some people don't like to do that. So, but you
Right.
described it as you've done some research, but what you're really saying is rapport, right?
Right.
Like if you have
Yeah.
good rapport with people, if you've maybe done a little bit of research, if you know who you're talking to, if you know how to connect, if you let's go there. Like, what are some of the ways? So if you're listening to this, I'm about to hit something I haven't hit on any shows. So if you're listening to this, this is going to get good. All right. Because I'm going to lead her there and then there's going to be a great teaching opportunity. So rapport. What are some
Mhm.
of the ways that you could help our audience in becoming, and I'm going to use your book, kicking ass at rapport?
So the way I do it, one of the ways, like I said, is
Mhm.
conferences, networking events. I'm in the tri-state area here in New Jersey, so we have a lot of cocktail after hours, mingling, 50, 100 people or less, and you find out who's going to be there. So your best way to do that is to have people in your industry as an ally. So I'll give you an example of how I do it. So
Hmm.
when I go to a conference, I usually align with someone that's going as well. So, for example, I build commercial buildings. I align with engineers, soil testing, environmental guys, and then we wind up going together. We don't follow each other, but we're able to be under one roof. We're all busy, right? So we're able to be under one roof. I'll get a list of who's going to be there. Totally worth the money. Usually pay $100 and you get an attendee list and you find out who's going to be there, what booth, after hour parties, whatever it is. So I'll align myself with a similar entrepreneur in my industry. Not my, you don't want to, be competing at this point. You want to create relationships. So at that time, when we get there, it's an opportunity for me to introduce them to my contacts and they can introduce me to their contacts. So I'll find out who I'm aiming for. I understand this guy's going to be there. He does all self storage, just examples. We've worked for him before. Let me introduce him to you. So there's your in, right? There's your
Right.
opportunity to meet people. So while you're there, most of the time you see other people that you didn't know are going to be there if you're in the industry, because the industries are all pretty small. They're all big, but we all know they're small. So that's how I do it. I find out who's going to be there. I align myself with similar entrepreneurs in my industry, but not a competitor, and we get the opportunity to introduce each other to each of our own contacts.
Right.
And, you just go from there and you get your foot in the door and you just start talking. You have to be able to talk to people. That is huge.
All
And
right.
I
So let's
understand. Yeah, I
let's go.
understand not everybody can do that.
Let's go
So,
there for a second. Let's go. So something really valuable you said there. And listen up if you're if you're listening here. It's what Pat just said is that look, when she goes to a trade, I mean, you can say trade show, convention, whatever you want to call
whatever.
it.
Yeah,
But when
anything.
you're there, listen to what she said. The way that she connects wasn't, she didn't say I connect by going and giving them a pitch of how great she connects by giving them value. And that
Right.
value is gives them the opportunity to do the same thing that she's hoping to achieve, which is connect with others. So by her introducing her contacts to their contacts, she's opening the door by creating value. So I would say, right there, I mean, that's a teaching moment number two is when you're selling or where you're trying to get to yes, or where you're, moving your product of your company, it's not about the pitch. It's not about this is who we are. It's not about this is who I am. It's not about me,
Mhm.
me, me, me. And that's the problem with the tell world. We live in a tell world. She's saying is no. She's living in a value world where first, if she creates value for that person's life, that required some research, then that other person's going to want to give value to them back. So I love that. Now let's take it one step further. You've made the connection,
Right.
and then you said right at the end when I started talking, you said you got to get back, you got to get good at talking to people. You got to get good at connecting. Okay, what does that mean? So, for example, is it when you approach someone that you don't know, they're on your list? What do
Mhm.
you do? Like, do you just start kind of? Do you have a little pitch? Do you kind of just tell them who you are, or do you like first take an interest in their lives and ask them some questions and kind of do like a little, rapport building before you say, "Hey, look, I have this person. I'd like to tell us a little bit about what you do because I think you're a pro at this, and our audience would really love to hear how you." Because one thing is saying, okay, I know who I want to talk to. I have a list. Okay, there he is. Now what? Now
Right.
what?
So again, you have to have commonality. So
Okay.
I have this way of talking to people like I've known them for 20 years.
Okay.
So I come up to people and I talk to them and I say, "Hey, how you doing? What have you been up to? What are you building?" In my case, it's building. Could be any industry. What are you advertising? Whatever industry you're in, and the battle is half fought when you're being introduced to somebody that they know, but they don't know you. So if if you have a parallel relationship with someone who's introducing you to their contacts, you already have kind of the door is cracked, right? Because These are people that already usually work with that person or have done work with them in the past, or who knows? The stories go on. Could have went to college with them. You don't know. So the door is cracked. So what you're doing is you're creating opportunity. Okay. You're not selling at this point. You're creating opportunity to sell what you're selling. So you have to open the door wider and wider, and you talk to them like I said, I talk to people like I've known them for years, and it makes them feel very comfortable. I get that a lot. I feel like I've known you forever because I talk to them like they're my cousin or my brothers, right? I'll talk to them like an average person, and then I'll ask them what they're working on. What's your current project? What did you just finish? What's going on? And then they usually ask questions back because they want to know what you're doing. And then that opportunity gets to become more realistic.
Right.
So, like I said, the battle's half fought when you're being introduced by somebody that you're in the industry with, if they've already worked with them. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? So they've kind of vouched for you, right? If you're, they only deal with, respectable companies, so they kind of, you know, beat down the open the door a
Right.
little bit for you.
So this
So
this brings us to another great teaching moment. It's so in ask don't tell, I'm saying it's about asking, it's not about telling, but then it's about listening. So I was listening to what Pat's saying. So in all your sales situations, in all your businesses, when you're talking to customers, clients, someone's going to buy something, you got to listen. So this is what I was listening. All right.
yeah.
When she was saying what she does, if you were listening, she didn't say, I go up to them and I have this little mini script where I tell them about who I am, or I tell them this, no, she said, and she said like 5 times, I asked them this. I asked them that. I asked them this. I asked them that. She is doing ask, don't tell. She was asking. She's not telling. Now, at some point, like you said, they ask you a question and then you tell. But
Right.
knowing you, Pat, you're just gonna like, if I can already see it. You're probably just gonna answer that and then ask him another question. And the reason, listen to this, she's laughing because she knows it's true. The
It's
reason they want to do
true.
business with her is because she's probably doing the one asking most of the questions. And she's probably the one taking an interest in their lives. And she's probably the one then asks a question that has nothing to do about construction. Well, tell me about your family and tell me about this and where are you
Right.
from and what do you like?
Make my
That's what she
job.
means.
Right.
Exactly. That's what she means by being like a friend. And then at some point, I would imagine in this, they say, Pat, I think we could do business with you. Like, or they want to know so much about you because you haven't said anything that they're like, hey, and then you say, well, let me introduce you to this. Now they want to do business with you. So the teaching moment there is discovery. You guys, if you're listening to the show, guys, girls, you've heard me say discovery. She's using
Yep.
in any sort of sales cycle, her think about that opportunity that she's having at that network, and she one part of the sales cycle. It's a long sale, but that's just one part. But in that little part, which is networking, she used ask don't tell, and she used discovery to ask questions to help her move it forward, so that someone says, "Hey, maybe we should do business together." That's a
Yeah.
great teaching moment. What would you say to that, Pat? Do you think I'm
No,
right?
I
Do you
think
think I'm
I
spot
think you're
on?
I think you're right on. I think you hit the target. It's funny because I'm laughing. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing about the situation that you're talking about, because a lot of times when people ask me, what do you do for a living? I always say I convince men to spend money on my services that they don't know they're spending. So, because they get to know me, and your personality comes out, and then they give you opportunity, and like you said, that's just the beginning. At the end of the day, business is about dollars and cents. People want to know what you charge. People want to know the value of the money they're going to spend with you. So then that's when you turn on your knowledge and your services and your company on how they can make their lives better and give them a better product for less money. So you hit it right on, because it's just part of the process, the introduction, the opportunity, the closing. So it's all about staying grounded, being relatable, talking to people. It's not always about business. Everybody's burnt out in this world. We all work a lot. It's not all about, oh, let's do business. Let's do business. Where have you doing? I can build this. It's not all about that. People want to
Right.
know that you're real, right? Oh, my son plays hockey too, right? Relatability. People want to know. People have a lot of commonality, common interests. So you talk to them, you get to know them a little bit on a personal level without being too personal. It's all a balancing act from start to finish. So, yeah,
Rapport,
yeah,
asking. I mean, it
yes,
almost gets to a point where a lot of times when I'm doing this, because I do what you do, people are like, this guy, like, he asks a lot of questions, but I want to keep talking to him because he's taken an interest in my life, but I can't wait to hear what he has to say. And that's probably
right.
what happens with you. Now, if you think about a sales cycle, I could imagine, Pat, that so if you're doing that in the network, if you're doing that in networking, you're meeting someone, you have a little introduction, you ask them some questions, it opens the door, and then you move to the next part of the sales cycle. Guess what? In the next part of the sales cycle, it's with someone else. You're probably doing the same thing. You're meeting this person, you're making a little introduction, you're asking questions, you're taking interest in their life, and
Right.
they're saying, hey, let's do business here. Let's move you forward in the cycle. And then the next, so along the whole entire sales cycle, I always say it's about shortening the sales cycle. How do you shorten the sales cycle? What's the easiest way? Honestly, it's not pitching, powering, scripting. It's not your product. It's not your service. Exactly what Pat's talking about. If you can get better at connecting with people,
Hmm.
finding what they need, what they want, what moves them, and they like want to do business with you, you will shorten any sales cycle by months, weeks, or years simply because people want to do business with you.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah. Pat, so
absolutely.
what are some
Yeah, excuse me. I usually let them know I'd like to help you
mm-hmm.
because a lot of times in my industry, they're overspending or they're getting robbed, right? Some people aren't doing the right thing with them. So when you say something like, I want to help you, I'd like to help you save some money. I've been doing this a long time. I think some of your methods are not exactly the best value for your dollar. It makes people think, I don't even know this girl and she wants to help me save money. And I actually do. I tell everybody, my clients, GCs, CMs, everybody, developers, I spend their money like it's mine. I don't think it's fair that anybody overpays for services that aren't the best option out there. And
Right.
and I think that's how I kind of close the deals because I do have their best interest in mind. And that's very
Yeah,
important. It's very important.
but I would imagine that you're not like you're not, if you go up to someone and say, hey, I think I can save you money, they're gonna be like, what is this? This is the pitch. But
No,
what I would imagine that you're saying that after you've done the
correct.
established rapport, asking a question,
That's
connected with them, you're
right.
like my cousin, and then all of a sudden you say, hey, that then you can pitch. So like, you've done your discovery, you learned, you've connected, then you can do your, hey, I think I could save you some money. Then they want to do business with you. See, where people get it wrong
Yeah.
is they skip the whole first part and
No.
they go up to someone and say, hey,
Yeah.
my name's Oscar, I think I could save you some money. And it's like, dude, like no one wants to talk to you. And
Yeah.
you know
No.
you are that person if you are that person.
No,
So what,
you can't skip steps.
you
You
can't
gotta
get
that
steps.
comes at a certain point of the
You
introduction and the relationship in the beginning. So,
what are some of
usually
the
you gotta
what
ask them what they're doing, right? What are you
that's what I
working on?
That's
Right.
what I wanted to ask you. What are some of your, you can't skip steps. You can't skip steps. And I always say, like, I have a 5-step process. It's called intent statement, then discovery, then your benefits, then you try to close. Like, I actually have a process. And then people are like, well, can I just go to the close? No, you sound like a jerk if you just go to the close. Like, if you didn't do your intent statement, your discovery, and build rapport, you will sound like a jerk. But so here's what I would ask you: what are some of your favorite rapport building questions that will help? Like, it doesn't matter who you're talking to, right? What are some of those questions that, like, that you ask, you always get kind of an answer and it kind of helps build that bridge? Do you have any of your favorites?
Um, Not really. Like I said, I just stick with the relatability. Like, know who you're talking to, know who they're doing business with, and know how you can angle yourself in there to do it better.
But I
right?
heard a couple of them. I heard you said something like, what are you building?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
things
I
like
mean,
that. Just like some questions that you might usually ask.
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I usually ask them what they're working on, what they have in the pipeline. In my industry, we're always at least 2-3 quarters out. I ask them, I tell them what I've done. That's similar to what they're working on. Once you find out what they're doing and what they're going to be doing, then you kind of angle yourself into, again, similarity, commonality. I've just got done doing a 9-story conversion, right? Turned an office building into 117 apartments. You did? Okay. So you give them a hook that if you've done that job, this chick might know what she's doing, right? So, because not everybody can do a 9-story conversion. So you kind of put your best foot forward after you find out that they're working on this. They're going to be working on that. I just picked up this piece of property. That's going to be a hotel. I'm giving you examples in my industry now. And you find out where they've been, what they're doing, past, present, future, right? Where they're going. And then you kind of weed your way in. You weave in, bob and weave, right? Where you fit into that storyline.
Good
I
stuff.
just
Good
got
stuff.
done doing that. I'm going to be doing this for this guy. That's weird. I'm going to be doing a Hilton Garden Inn for this developer. So you
Right.
kind of give them something back where they can go, okay.
Well, you're
If she's
talking.
working for him, she must be pretty good, right?
Yeah. Well, you're talking about connection. You're talking about rapport and those connection points that
Yeah.
make people want to do business with you. Because ultimately, Pat, what you're saying is it goes back to my number one rule in sales. You do business with those that are similar or have similar, that you kind of relate to, and that you
Yep.
say, okay, we can have a conversation. And so they don't have to be like you, they can just understand you. And that's that rapport of wanting to do business with those that kind of understand where you're coming from. So one of the things that really stood out to me there is like when I asked you those questions, and this is what I want you to audience to remember is the questions that she asks aren't like yes, no questions.
No.
And somebody like, well, that's no. Think about the number of times that you have been at a network, a trade show or something like that. And somebody introduced you and then you asked a closed ended question. Yes, no. How are you doing today? Like that's going to get you nowhere. What Pat has said, if you're listening, is all her questions were open ended. What are you working on? That's going to make the other person want to tell you literally what's in their mind, what's in their heart, what's going on. And then she probably follows up with a deeper question of, tell me a little bit more about that, or what's been the challenge there that's been going on. That makes you connect with people. So one of the things, you're listening to a pro, like listen to the pros. Okay. That's who we have on this show. Pat is the pro, and she's asking deep ended questions. So the person wants to connect. And guess what? It's not about Pat. She wants the other side to talk. So if the other side talks, then it's going to give Pat a chance to say, I'm just unpackaging what Pat said. She's the one to say, I'm just unpacking it in terms that all my listeners understand. But what she's saying is, okay, well, I'm going to listen to every word he has to say, and I'm going to find where the bridge is, where the gap is, where the weave is that I can tag on to that and say, oh, yeah, well, we did a Hilton Garden Inn not too long. Tell me a little bit about that project that you did, or what the challenge was there. How much did you pay? So she's just, I call it like, kind of peeling the onion, building the puzzle, and it all
Yeah.
comes from open-ended questions in order to build really good rapport. So I
Yes.
love it. I love it. Pat, how can we connect with you? How can our listeners find out a little bit more about you? How do we find your
Sure.
book? Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
how we want
So
to connect.
So my book obviously is on Amazon. It's Kicking Karma's Ass. It's on Amazon and I'm all over the internet. I have my own website, patmiller.net, and I'm all over social media, the Pat Miller 11. I'm on X, Facebook, Instagram, and of course you could see what I'm building, what I'm currently building. It's Blue Diamond Construction NJ.com.
Awesome.
And I
Awesome.
actually am a woman in construction. Got
Well,
got some good projects coming up. I'm building a
you
lot of gyms. Make
you
America
have
healthy, it seems. It's pretty popular right now.
you have been a great guest, and
Thank you.
one of the things I think people could take home from you is like, okay, so if you're a woman in a man's world, right? So you go in
Yeah.
there and you're talking to a bunch of guys. So, and if you're not doing biz, Pat, I'm going to encourage you to do it, but I'm pretty sure you are, right? So how do you connect with people that aren't you? Like Pat probably knows, I don't want to assume, but I always tell people, look, you want to
Okay.
connect with anything and anyone, learn about the world, or like learn about the world, like travel, read books, watch shows, watch sports, play sports, read the news. Like, don't be an extremist that's just on one thing. Learn about everything in the world around you, so that you have like this arsenal of different weapons that you or tools that you can take out when that conversation comes. So what happens to you, Pat, when one of those construction guys wants to talk about football?
Oh, well, I got 4 brothers and 8 nephews and 2 sons. Of course, I know
There
about
you go.
football.
See, that's how you know you're talking to a pro. That's how
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean,
because
I
she
know all
knows,
that.
right? She knows
Look,
that.
it's all about introducing into business what makes you you, your experiences in life, and it's not all business. Not every guy. Some of the most wealthy developers don't want to talk about business, right?
Exactly.
They want to talk about, you know, boats or whatever. Florida, you got a place in Florida. Where are you? Have you eaten at this restaurant? It's just common day things. People, at the end of the day, we all have our own lives, and people, it's nice to make friends along the way. Of course, I made a lot of friends over the years, but people want to talk common stuff, right? So you got to know your current events. You got to know sports. You got to know it. A lot of times I'll find out who they're working with in the industry. Do you buy your own materials? What yards are you using? Because I know everybody, right? When you're buying raw materials, you pretty much know everybody in the industry. So again, who you playing
That,
golf with? I know all about
now
that
she's talking. See,
too.
now she's talking about golf. Now she's talking about football. And see, everyone. I'm gonna let you go. So listen, if you're liking the show, I'm gonna just connect with us. But listen, the
Okay,
reason Pat is a pro, the reason Pat is a pro is because she's able to connect with people in any form of life wherever they are, and she's
that's
able to
right,
meet
my
them there
friend.
because she knows enough about the world around her where any tool that comes up, she's able to pull it out of one pocket and say, okay, you want to talk, you want to talk sports, you want to talk fishing, let's go there. And that makes her a pro. And I think that is something that our readers can take, or our listeners can take home today. If you are stuck, and if you are just this like silo where life is just about you, and
Yeah,
you're not going to get very far in sales, business, or life. So I will leave you with that. This is Ask Don't
touche.
Tell. Connect with us on oscarsubrots.com. Pick up the book Closing Intelligence on Amazon, closingintelligence.com, or listen to the show. Pat, you have been awesome. You've given our readers
Thank
some
you.
amazing stuff to think about.